Well, it looks like the United States of America has never done as well on trade as they're doing right now with the president of the United States, Donald Trump. Here he is in Japan just yesterday, renewing a new trade deal with Japan, the island nation and economic juggernaut, let's be honest. Now, meanwhile, on the other side of the Pacific, we have these fools congratulating themselves over a job well done. What was the prize? An additional 10% tariffs on their nation. Ladies and gents, welcome back. Don't forget to hit that like on the way in. And if you're new here, my name is Clyde. Welcome to the show. The subscribe button is just down below. Let's get right into this story. Donald Trump says, forget it. I'm not down with talking with Canada. Not after what they did with that ad. Now, if you don't know about the ad, it's the ad that the premier of Ontario, Doug Ford, put out in the United States, spent $75 million putting this ad out to propagandize Americans, specifically Reaganite Republicans, to think that Canada is somehow doing the right thing and Donald Trump is a big baddie. I don't know how they thought that was going to go over, but it went over miserably, and it actually landed them, because of this, an additional 10% tariffs on top of all the tariffs that are ongoing with the country because of, punitive things like bad border situation, all of this stuff, which we've gone over at length on the show. Now, Donald Trump was asked, and the question was, that was an ad run by a provincial government in Canada, alluding to the fact that it was only Doug Ford that did that. Trump says, I don't care if it was just a province. It was Canada. Canada, they approved it. They let it go, and this is what happened.
That was an ad run by a provincial government in Canada. Why are you mad at the federal government?
Because whether it's provincial or Canada itself, they all knew exactly what the ad was. The Prime Minister knew, everybody knew. The Prime Minister knew what the ad was before it went on.
Will you see him in APEC? Do you want to meet with him?
I don't want to meet with him. No, I'm not going to be meeting with him for a while. No. I'm very happy with the deal we have right now with Canada. We're going to let it ride.
Well, we have Secretary Benton here. Can you ask about the Fed searches?
Really happy with the deal we have with Canada. We're just going to let it ride. We're going to let it ride, obviously, until the USMCA is no longer a thing. Now, the USMCA comes into a renewal for its agreement in July of 2026. Speculation is that Donald Trump is going to give a 6 months notice to exit that deal in January. We're yet to see what's going to happen there, but hey, just hold on to your seats, folks, because this is going to be a bumpy ride, especially if you're in Canada at the moment. Now, speculation of, did Carney know about this? Well, let's just say Doug Ford spilled the beans. Yeah, Carney knew about this, and he absolutely approved of it, as for at least Doug Ford's statement here.
Have you talked to the Prime Minister about this, and he was pretty measured in Malaysia today.
Sure.
About you and about this situation. But how are relations with the Prime Minister? Are things strained now because of what's happened?
Not at all. He saw the ad before I put it out. So did his chief of staff. They both saw it, and we moved forward on it. But again, we achieved our goal. As we say, mission accomplished. It was done.
Mission accomplished.
They're talking about it in the U.S., and they weren't talking about it before I put the ad on. So I'm glad that Ronald Reagan was a free trader.
Glad that Ronald Reagan was a free trader, and still trying to misrepresent what Ronald Reagan was saying in that famous speech from the 1980s, of course. Now, Mark Carney jumping in to say he hasn't spoken to Trump since Thursday. What's going on here?
Hi, Prime Minister. Sarah Ritchie with the Canadian Press. Have you had any contact with President Trump since Thursday?
I have not.
Nope.
Given that President Trump said today on Air Force One, I don't know if you heard this, but in the last hour he said he doesn't plan to meet with you for a long time. Is it worth continuing to pursue a discussion, a meeting, a phone call with him at this point?
I didn't see the comment. Look, we stand ready to sit down with the United States, myself with the President, my colleagues with their colleagues, when the U.S. is ready to sit down. If they're not ready to do that, as those comments indicate, then...
Judy Trin with CTV News. Donald Trump says he doesn't want to see you at all at APEC. How did your relationship with Donald Trump go south so fast?
It's a question for him.
That's a question for him, he says. What? This is a question for him. What's been happening here in Canada? It's unbelievable. As well as him joking about this kind of thing while in Asia. Barbara Bal saying, this is not funny. Seriously, enough kindergarten antics. This is crazy.
A few days ago, I launched with my good friend, Premier Ford. Did I say good friend, Premier Ford? I said the always entertaining, the always interesting, the always unpredictable Premier Ford. Yeah, God, sorry. I don't know why I mixed the two up, President and Premier Ford.
We don't know either. One's a lunatic and the other one's the President of the United States of America. But this is the reality. Now, this report came out. This is from Susan Koninda. She put this out. It says, exposes how Britain's using Canada as a Trojan horse to sabotage Trump's sovereignty revolution.
Donald Trump is in Asia, and while the headlines want to keep you focused on the China threat, the real threat to Donald Trump's agenda is not coming from the president of China. It's coming from the Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney, who went to the ASEAN summit in Malaysia to defend globalization and try and sabotage Trump's economic revolution. But if you read the press, it's all about China. But contrary to those headlines and constant warnings of trade war and confrontation with China, the United States and China announced substantial progress yesterday. Treasury Secretary Bessent and his Chinese counterpart finalized a preliminary trade framework in advance of the Trump-Xi summit later this week. By contrast, Trump suspended all trade talks with Canada right before he left for Asia. And on Air Force One last night, President Trump said that Canada has been one of the most difficult countries to deal with. And when asked if he would meet with Prime Minister Carney at the APEC summit, said,
Canada has been ripping us off for a long time.
Why?
One of the most difficult countries to deal with has been Canada. As much as I love Canada itself and the people of Canada, they've just had a lot of bad representatives. They did a fake ad yesterday. They were caught.
Will you see him in APEC? Do you want to meet with him?
I don't want to meet with them. No, I'm not going to be meeting with them for a while. No, I'm very happy with the deal we have right now with Canada.
And there you go, saying I'm very happy with the deal. I'll leave a link in the description down below for this whole video. It's fantastic. Go check it out. She lays out the groundwork for how Britain's actually behind causing all this problems. But what's the result here in Canada? Well, Canada is quickly losing any goodwill from American people. The American people, absolutely. It's it's one thing if Donald Trump doesn't like America, doesn't like the officials of Canada, but what happens when the American people stop liking Canadians? This is really a thing that can embolden Trump to just go full tilt, go right into Canada. Once viewed as a neighbor, the nice neighbor to the north, Americans are seeing Canadians as a nation of petulant children that are willing to burn every bridge when they don't get a pony for Christmas. Shape up, Canada. Well, what is that pony for Christmas? Well, that's monopolies in Canada, where the U.S. is not allowed to enter the market. But Canadians are always allowed to enter the market, unfettered. We're supposed to allow all Canadian businesses to enter the United States market, but a majority of these American businesses are not allowed to enter the Canadian market. Well, that's been the problem since day one with Donald Trump, and the reason why all of this stuff is happening for the most part. And here's some of that sentiment right now. Brian says on X, he says, I want the U.S. to fully destroy all auto jobs in Ontario. Go for it, Trump. This province keeps electing this moron. They deserve it. Here's some of that sentiment right there. And why? What is happening? Why? Well, they ran that ad and, Donald Trump reacted to it prior to the World Series happening. And here from the post-millennial, Doug Ford says, he's still gonna run that ad during the World Series, and he did. He ran that ad during the World Series, despite what Donald Trump had said about it, leading Donald Trump to bring on those additional tariffs. That's right, an additional 10% tariffs on Canada. That's amazing, right? So where did this ad come from in the first place? This is really, really interesting. Table Salt put this out. So check this out. The CCP put a video ad out on Twitter back in April that is almost identical to the Doug Ford ad. Here it is, the comparison right and left. What the heck is going on here?
It says, let's impose tariffs on foreign imports. It looks like they're doing the patriotic thing by protecting American products and jobs. And sometimes for a short while it works, but only for a short time. The triggering of fierce trade wars. The result is more and more tariffs.
Again, this was Ronald Reagan taken out of context. The original ad was in support of the use of tariffs against Japan back in the 1980s, because Japan was going against a trade deal that they had when it came to releasing semiconductors. They were holding back semiconductors and only allowing their companies to use them rather than shipping them to the United States. So Ronald Reagan took these actions, and he was supporting the use of tariffs in that speech, and that was what it was all about. Now, back over to Canada, since Ontario can't run these ads, guess what? The guy, the chief of British Columbia, the guy who's well known for his ties to some of the darkest parts of China, has vowed he's going to launch his own campaign of ads in the United States on behalf of British Columbians. That's right. This is going to go forward doing this thing. Now, why would Americans be so upset about this ad? Well, imagine if the U.S. government spent millions of dollars running ads in Canada without with out of context clips of Terry Fox sounding like he was speaking out against universal health care. That's right. That's what Canada just did. So that's the reason why Americans are so upset. Now, how is this going to affect things moving forward? Now, right now, trade, the 10% tariffs are going up above and beyond the tariffs that are already in place on about only 15% of goods that are going into the United States. 85% of goods are protected by what's known as the USMCA. You might hear it called the CUSMA because in Canadian media, they want to make it Canada first. The name of the trade deal is the USMCA. But here's Howard Lutnick talking about this a few months back about this. Canada has not been trading fairly for a very long time, and the U.S. is probably going to move away from deals like this.
Is you should assume that the small countries, the Latin American countries, the Caribbean countries, many countries in Africa, they will have a baseline tariff of 10%. And then the bigger economies will either open themselves up or they'll pay a fair tariff to America for not opening themselves up and treating America unfairly. So what the president's view is, and what she's instructed me to do, is say, look, if you're willing to open yourself up and really open your economy to American business, to ranchers, fishermen, farmers, and businesses, then, of course, we'll make a better deal with you. But if you're going to keep your tariffs and your tariff barriers holding us down, then, of course, it seems fair that you should pay a tariff to do business with the greatest customer on earth, the American consumer.
Okay, so just quickly, are you going to renegotiate that free trade deal, the USMCA?
Oh, I think the president is absolutely going to renegotiate USMCA, okay, but that's a year from today.
Exactly.
So today, of course, 75% comes in free, but of course, should you expect us to renegotiate it? It makes perfect sense for the president to renegotiate it. He wants to protect American jobs. He doesn't want cars built in Canada or Mexico when they could be built in Michigan and Ohio.
And that's exactly what's happening. It's already happening at this moment, as so many manufacturers have been closing their doors and moving the manufacturing to Illinois, Detroit, Michigan, Ohio, all these different places. And what do we get? We get just shenanigans coming from the Canadian side. And this was a famous scene as Doug Ford put that ad out. Here's Elizabeth May, another crazy politician in Canada, celebrating this fact.
So we're asking everybody about Mr. Trump's actions.
Go Doug Ford! Go Doug Ford! Sorry. Mr. Trump is, as ever, thin-skinned and unpredictable.
So somebody else mashed this, the two scenes up. Doug Ford pouring out the liquor, and Elizabeth May coming in to save it. Yeah, it seems a little fitting of the situation there, but this is where we're at in Canada. It's unbelievable. Canada seems to be the only country at this point that does not want to negotiate with the United States of America. China seems to be coming to the table. They were the other only holdout, and that's being resolved. So what's going to happen? What's going to happen to Canada? Canada being the only holdout against the United States, and with their elbows up, or whatever they want to call it at the moment. It just seems obnoxious. It seems unnecessary, and it seems to be hurting the Canadian people while emboldening monopolies and whatnot within Canada. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. Let me know what you think, and we'll see you in the next one. Keep on trucking.